Hi, my name is Paloma Diamond, and this is a timeline of my career.
And the nominees for Best Actress in a Motion Picture are Paloma Diamond.
Every morning it's the same monotony. You are not a fallen woman. How could you not see?
The characters, the costume, the makeup, the storyline.
So people start connecting and are like, wait a second, is that a young Paloma Diamond? Obviously it's a young Paloma Diamond, so he's like, absolutely, this is a young Paloma Diamond.
First of all, Rocky didn't have no business popping up in Dina's apartment like that.
Got me in a chokehold.
She went back to Rocky. They're having an affair.
So messy. Do you need to explain all of this to your friend if you're going to just tell them about the 1980s soap opera that Paloma Diamond is starring in? Yes, you do. Did that make sense? Probably. You know what I'm saying.
Who is Paloma Diamond really? What does it mean to grow up as a third culture kid? And how does a teacher from one of New Zealand's toughest suburbs become an internet sensation with millions of followers? On this episode of The News and You, an exclusive interview with content creator Julian Sewell, better known as the internet's favourite Hollywood actress, Paloma Diamond. He became a viral sensation for his impersonations of Queen Elizabeth to creating beloved characters that millions adore. I'm Eleisha Foon, journalist, storyteller, and I've learned everyone you walk past has a story, and that story could change your life. So let's crack it open to discover the news in you. There's a moment in every performer's life where a costume becomes a doorway into a completely different universe, the world of entertainment. For Julian Sewell, that doorway appeared in the form of a wig, red lipstick, and the character we know as Paloma Diamond, a sassy, magnetic, and hilariously unhinged persona who has become a cultural moment of her own. But here's what most people don't know. Before the viral videos, 2.2 million followers, and working with Kylie Minogue and Nick Jonas before the Broadway stage lights, Julian, who grew up with privilege, was a teacher in one of New Zealand's most underprivileged suburbs, whose homes were far from the one he grew up in. And before that, he was a third culture kid who grew up in Asia and never fully felt like he belonged. A kid who escaped into theatre and ballet, who dreamed of being big, bold, expressive, but was taught in 100 subtle ways to shrink. Paloma Diamond changed that. She wasn't just a character, she was a permission slip. The red carpets, the fame, didn't happen overnight. It took years of skits falling flat and algorithms ignoring him. Until breakthrough. This is a behind-the-scenes tell-all with Julian Sewell, someone who felt like an outsider everywhere, becoming a symbol of joy, bringing millions together through laughter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this exclusive interview with Julian Sewell. I am joined by the wonderful Julian Sewell. Little disclaimer, Julian is married to my best friend Logan, just recently got married, and he is now part of the Best Friend Club. It's just been the most wonderful joy getting to know Julian over the past few years, and wow, I have to say that wedding was so enchanting. And yeah, I wanted to make sure everyone listening and watching knew exactly who you were, because I have the privilege of getting to know you. There's so many facets to you. Firstly, just start with, you're a husband. What is it like being a married man?
Oh, the wedding was so beautiful. An opportunity to have your favorite people on the planet all gathered in one place to observe this beautiful celebration and this beautiful journey that, you know, we're about to embark on. And so...
Best wedding party ever. You wore beautiful salmon and Logan's side wore a sage green.
You know, originally it was forest green and maroon, which were our favorite colors. But for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere who don't know this, November is spring in New Zealand, not autumn. And so when we told everyone, people were like, oh, I love your colors, pink and green. You had a Wicked-themed wedding. And I said, no, didn't have a Wicked-themed wedding. And then people are looking at us going, you know Wicked for Good comes out this week, right? And I'm like, no way. It was totally not intentional, but it was essentially a Wicked-themed wedding, but it wasn't.
Oh my gosh.
But that's what it looked like.
Can you imagine the royalties? Honestly, I think that was a missed opportunity.
I know. And the thing is, we did end the dance party with Defying Gravity. Maybe it was a Wicked wedding. I don't know. Logan and I, our favorite part of the day was the vows and ceremony. Oh. And then we read it in front of everyone. It's like you start speaking from the heart and the real raw emotions come out and you're like, actually, we're doing this. We're embarking on this together. And everyone who we love in the world is witnessing that. So, yeah, it was really special. We were so happy to have you. And we love that video that you made as well that did really well on social media.
It was a hit, but it was great. It was so much fun. One of, if not the best wedding I've ever attended. Thanks for making it such a beautiful day. Okay, well, I would love to dive into your background. And for people that don't know, Julian actually grew up in Hong Kong. What is it like growing up in Hong Kong, especially being an expat? How did that shape your life?
I was born and raised in the city. I lived a lot of my life in Pok Fu Lam and the mid-levels. It was great to kind of exemplify just how amazing the city is. It's the perfect city because everything is at your fingertips. It's so accessible. Everything is within a half an hour train ride. Everything is so close by. You have supermarkets everywhere. You've got train stations everywhere. The trains come every 30 seconds. Like it's just so a fun, easy, so reliable. It really is an amazing city to grow up in. I obviously had a very privileged upbringing in that, my dad worked for the government and I went to an international school. So I know basic Cantonese, but just enough to get myself around. My understanding of a third culture kid is that you grew up outside of where your parents are from and you were influenced by 2 or more cultures. So I went to but it was very British. So we had a lot of British teachers. So a lot of the British influence. Yeah, and my accent will always change. And everybody watching this who maybe knows me from social media will be, he doesn't sound like that. He sounds very different. It's because my accent changes, okay? And it's because of my upbringing in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong has recently gone through a tragic event with some key apartments in the city that caught alight and people lost their lives. I know that you've got some friends in Hong Kong that are helping out with different charities.
It was just horrific. It's Hong Kong's second-deadliest fire recorded. I think there's just been this overwhelming calling for people to recognize that it wasn't the bamboo itself that caused the fire to spread, but the construction company were cutting corners. Hong Kong is filled with apartment blocks and apartment complexes. My heart went out to Hong Kong. Whenever there's a tragedy in the place that you grew up, it does hit home a little bit. I felt very sad after hearing that news.
We want to take a moment to spotlight a group often overlooked in crises like this, the migrant domestic workers who keep Hong Kong running, yet frequently stand on the margins without the legal protections or support they deserve. In the spirit of generosity in the lead up to Christmas, we want to spotlight Mission for Migrant Workers, a charity that advocates for legal rights, emergency support and long-term protection. Their work has become even more crucial in moments like this, when many workers are left vulnerable, displaced, or without a safety net. If you'd like to support Hong Kong through this tragedy, consider learning about or donating to Missions for Migrant Workers. The link for the charity is in the bio.
My accent does change, and it's interesting because if you grew up in the international schools in Hong Kong, they all belong to one kind of collective organization called ESF, or the English Schools Foundation. And you know it in Hong Kong, it's called the ESF accent, which is where you have an accent that is an amalgamation of American, British, and possibly Australian, or in my case, a New Zealand accent as well. So it's very interesting. If you want to really unpack it, we can talk about my own struggle with my identity. I find it really difficult to answer people when they say, where are you from? I find it really difficult because I have no idea where I'm from. Because when I was in Hong Kong, they would go, where are you from? And I would say, I'm from Hong Kong. They're like, yeah, well, you're not Chinese. You don't look Chinese. You don't sound like Chinese. You don't speak any Chinese other than basic Cantonese. So I was like, oh, well, I'm from New Zealand. But I would go back to New Zealand and I would sound nothing like a Kiwi because I didn't grow up in the country. And they go, no, you're not. You're not from New Zealand.
Yeah.
You're not from New Zealand. You don't know our culture. You don't, know how we communicate with us. So I was like, oh, and they're like, you are 100% Hong Kong. But when I was in Hong Kong, I never felt like I was from Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. So I struggled with that sense of belonging. I still, obviously, to this day, have a New Zealand passport. So I'm a New Zealand citizen. But again, it wasn't until living in New Zealand for 5 years. I mean, still, after living in New Zealand for 5 years, I still don't even think I'm that much of a Kiwi.
And not even in Australia. Like, you spent your time studying, you got your degree in Aussie as well. Thoughts and prayers to third culture kids, everyone.
I definitely felt, now I really hope I don't offend anyone because this is a bit of a hot take. Okay. I definitely felt a lot more welcomed in Australia and embraced for just being this random kid that grew up in Hong Kong. In New Zealand, I found that a lot of people didn't take the time and effort to try to get to know me or understand my perspective. And I know that might offend some Kiwis out there, but I think it does have a lot to do with tall poppy.
For people that don't know, a poppy is one of our kind of national flowers. So if a poppy grows too tall, what happens? You get cut down because you kind of push down to the level of everyone else. I have experienced aspects of that. It can feel really suffocating and you don't really know where to turn to, even expressing simple news or celebratory things happening or opportunities going on in your life. And it can seem, even if it's just factual, it can be taken in the sense of, oh, like, you're arrogant.
After Hong Kong, I lived in Australia for 3 years, went back to Hong Kong and I worked full time. And then I moved to New Zealand and it was my first time living in the motherland, although I had come back to New Zealand every, twice a year. And so, but this was the first time actually like living in the country, being surrounded by so many Kiwis and actually I got this feeling of standoffishness. I've moved to America. I moved to America this January. So I've been in America for almost a year now. And it's so funny. The Kiwi culture and American culture could not be further opposite from one another. And I find that Americans are the complete opposite of tall poppy because Americans are all about celebrating your wins and your achievements, and they are the biggest cheerleaders. And when you do something that's really exciting that you're really proud of and you tell people that, there's this overwhelming sense of support, right? In New Zealand, it's almost the complete opposite. I want to talk to some of my friends and family about my achievements this year and got to, work with Kylie Minogue and Nick Jonas, and it's just, oh, okay. Okay, and that, quickly move on to something else. And I was just like, okay, like, I'm not asking for you to like go crazy, but, like fangirl with me. It's just like on to the next thing that I've had to get used to as well.
I hope you're enjoying this episode. I just wanted to pop in and say if the news and you is something you love listening to, you can help me keep it going by joining my Patreon community. Your support helps me tell more stories that matter, the kind that brings about compassion and a deeper understanding for others, culture, and the world around us. The kind of stories that can change hearts and minds. So if you believe in this work, head to patreon.com/Eleisha Foon. That's ELEISHAFOON. The link's in the bio. And be sure to follow The News and You on Instagram for more behind-the-scenes moments, announcements, and updates. Right, let's get back into the conversation.
Before you moved to America, you were a teacher. How did you bridge this gap between teaching sexual assault prevention, teaching consent in schools to students, to then teaching at a low decile school, which gave you this really strong foundation? And behind the scenes, were you thinking, I need to get on Broadway one day, I need to put out, these characters, I want to do comedy, I still want to do theatre and acting? What was going on and how did you bridge that gap?
It was just a beautiful chain of events that kind of led me in this direction to now becoming a full-time content creator. I was a sexual violence prevention coordinator and facilitator. The program was established from the really alarming rates of sexual violence in New Zealand, some of the worst statistics worldwide. Surprisingly, it had really, really bad, the statistics were just awful. This pandemic of sexual violence starts young, at a very young age. Toxic masculinity starts at a young age. It's all learned behavior. So we were tasked with going into schools and actually delivering these lessons on consent and what healthy consent looks like.
It's so important.
It is really important because for so many of us, it can seem really obvious. I think for a lot of students that are, their brains are still developing, it's important to reiterate that. Sometimes it isn't so simple as a verbal yes or a verbal no. Mm-hmm. If you're doing something in bed with somebody and they kind of lock up and freeze and you go, oh, is everything okay? And they don't say anything, that does not give you permission to then keep going. Mm. It's a clear no, even though they didn't say no. So it's little conversations like that were really, really important. I took a paper when I was in my bachelor's degree in Australia called Introduction to Sexology, and I thought it was the most fascinating thing ever. Sexology is the study of human sexuality. It covered everything from sexual violence to gender identity to sexual orientation. You'll be talking to high schoolers about sex and consent, and I thought, this sounds exactly what I am really interested in. I did that for about 3 years, and that was a challenge in and of itself. Sometimes you have really good lessons where all of the kids are talking and they're essentially doing the teaching of themselves. You do these, what do you call them, continuums, where you're like, stand on this side if you think this, stand on that side if you think that. I had been doing a lot of work in schools, so not just the sexual violence prevention, but I was working as an arts coordinator for Mount Roskill Grammar School, and I was teaching speech and drama lessons for an extracurricular company. My posting was at Aorere College in South Auckland in Papatoetoe. Very challenging school.
Why was it so challenging?
It's like, I've lived such a privileged life. I don't know what poverty, I never knew what poverty looked like because I'd never been in those spaces. So
what did it look like to you?
Honestly, just the first thing that pops into my mind is having a kid go, I didn't eat anything today. Do you have any food? And it's 4 p.m. and they had nothing to eat.
How did you respond?
I said, absolutely. I got a protein bar. Let me, give you some of that. And then I would have to write up these reports and be like, this student has not, he said that he hadn't, and they were like, great, we'll deliver a food package to his address. There were, things that you could do to help from the school, but it was very, very eye-opening to be in that space and actually just to see how these people interact and how they live. We dealt with a lot of violence, so a lot of fights. School fights were not a thing when I went to school. I never experienced that, between 20 or more kids. I was at the end of my tether by the end of it because I actually wanted to do 1 year, but my posting was for 2 years. I had to complete 2 years in order for me to get my diploma, my qualification. And I cried to Logan because Logan was living in New York at the time. This is my husband. I was like, I don't want to continue. And he's like, you've just got 4 more months. You've just got, and I'm like, I don't want to do this because it was really hard. So many of these kids come from real broken families and they bring that into the classroom with them.
Yeah, that would have really coloured your perspective of the world in a whole new way. I imagine that would be quite heavy and a lot of weight and pressure for you to be there for them, that safe space. We actually haven't touched on what you were doing behind the scenes in New Zealand when you blew up because of the Queen Elizabeth video, and that's how you came to what people know as an overnight success, and I say that with quotation marks. You spent around 4 years in the lead up doing lots of different videos at home, doing TikToks. Tell us about that, because that's really intriguing to me.
I didn't start doing videos on TikTok until COVID broke out because there was nothing left to do, and it was just, I was at home, me and my sister, and we just wanted to have something fun to do. So it was completely creative. It was just something that I didn't take seriously at all. It was just something fun for us to do while in lockdown. And I continued posting videos, and it wasn't until one of them got like 13,000 views. And I was like, oh my goodness, 13,000, that's actually quite a bit. I really liked it. I liked the idea that people could engage with my content and write comments, and they're seeing my work, essentially, that I didn't consider it work at the time, but it was something that I created. And I continued posting and posting and posting, and every so often, like most videos wouldn't get that much attention, but every so often you got a video that went up to 60,000 views. I remember my very first video to hit 1 million was, I think, something that I did from The Crown. I think it was Margaret Thatcher or something, and I reenacted that, and that got 1 million. I was like, my first video ever to hit 1 million. Oh my gosh.
Your Majesty.
Prime Minister.
I think we have enough respect for one another personally to ask ourselves some of the bigger questions.
Never. It never crossed my mind that I could be doing this full time. Well, first of all, in New Zealand, the Creator Fund doesn't exist. So you can't make money from TikTok, not like in the US or the UK where you have the Creator Fund available. How I make my money is through paid partnerships and sponsorships. And that's still how the main way I make money these days. And then the Paloma video, the first Oscars one, was my first like big one.
Okay, for people that don't know who Paloma is, describe this fabulous character that the world fell in love with, and that I feel like that really put you on the map as a content creator.
It was like a silly little video that I did with my sister in March of 2023 on just, I remember I wanted to do like a video on the Oscars. And my sister's like, it's tomorrow, right? Then we need to do it now. So quick, let's grab the wigs, let's grab the costumes, let's just go for it. And it was like I created all of these like characters based on these actresses. Like Paloma Diamond was the very first name. People will ask me, how did you come up with the name? I'm like, I genuinely don't know. I just knew I wanted a star quality last name like Neil Diamond. And so, something that was very sparkly. And then I just thought of every Best Actress Award intro ever, which is they'll show a clip of the film and the cameras will cut back to the actresses watching themselves on the big screen and in the Oscars ceremony.
Here are the nominations for Best Actress in a Leading Role. Felicity Carmichael, Gifted Grace. Paloma Diamond, Bluff.
And I just thought that was so niche and just so like a little bit funny to watch them watching themselves. Like it's really quite ridiculous. So I just put a spotlight on that. I made that into a skit, and I went to sleep that night and I woke up with 3 million views, which was the quickest million. Usually it would have taken me like days and weeks to hit 1 million, but this was overnight. I hit 3 million. So I was gobsmacked. I was absolutely like, oh my goodness, this has gone crazy. And now it has over 30 million views. I was like, oh wow, well, I've got to keep this going then. So I've got to actually finish the skit. Who wins?
June Sheridan, Funny Lady. And the Oscar goes to...
And so many people on that video said Paloma Diamond was robbed. They wanted her to win. Which is funny because she actually started off as a character that was quite snooty, in my opinion. Then I transitioned her to become a lot more of a humble queen. But I would say that she's more indulgent. Like it's all about her. Yes. And everybody just goes, oh, Paloma, I love you. And she's like, and there's an element of like, people ask me how I characterize her. And I, whether it's Glenn Close or Meryl Streep or whether she's based on Susan Lucci, who famously lost 18 Emmy nominations, then won on her 19th, like true story. There's an actress that happened to. Whether she's a Meryl Streep or how like her mannerisms, I think there's a lot of Princess Diana to her, because Princess Diana did this a lot. She lowered her head and she was quite doe-eyed, like she spoke with a voice like that. And yes, there's an element of that to her, although I wouldn't credit, it being like an entire thing. But that was kind of the birth of Paloma. And I took that character and every award season rocks by and I have to come up with 5 brand new movies. And
that's amazing. Did you ever think that this is where you would be?
No. Paloma changed my life, yeah. Paloma gave me a lot of It's so weird talking about her in the third person.
I know. Where is Paloma? Where is she? Let's get her out.
But Paloma, yeah, she has changed my life. I've been so fortunate to have all of these really cool opportunities. And I was on TMZ. I was on Good Morning America. I was in a video with Kylie Minogue. You know, just like a lot of these really crazy opportunities happened. And I'm so grateful.
Enjoying the conversation? Me too. Isn't he fabulous? But in this episode, I am biased. Sorry to leave you on a cliffhanger, but what can I say? I'm a storyteller. So stick around for next time on part 2 of my conversation with Julian Sewell, where we unpack his life as a content creator living in New York, and he shares a number of juicy stories, drawing back the curtain on Hollywood and red carpet premieres. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Thank you for listening to The News and You. Your support means the world. If you believe in the work we do at The News and You, sign up to our Patreon. It really is the best way to keep this going and be part of the Newsies community. I'd be so grateful if you can share the love by leaving a rating and review. It'll help spread these stories even further. What are your key takeaways? If this story impacted you, or even made you see the world a little differently, why not share it with your friends and family? Until next time, remember, your story matters, and there's a shared truth behind everything.